Every spring, gardeners across the country spend hundreds of dollars digging up tired beds and starting over from scratch, buying flat after flat of annuals that bloom for a few months and then vanish with the first hard frost. But the gardeners who really know what they're doing have stopped doing that. They plant once, along the edges of their beds and pathways, and let nature do the heavy lifting every single year after. Today we're looking at 8 perennial border plants that will turn the edges of your garden into something genuinely stunning, plants that come back stronger, fuller, and more beautiful with every passing season. If this kind of low-effort, high-impact gardening sounds like your style, go ahead and subscribe right now so you don't miss what's coming next. Hit that like button, tell us in the comments which plant on this list you're most excited to try, and if you know someone who's been wanting to upgrade their garden borders, send this their way. Let's get into it. Plant 1. Hosta. Starting the list with the plant most gardeners reach for the moment a border dips into shadow. Hosta. The foliage is the entire draw here. Enormous, bold leaves in solid greens, blue-greens, golden yellows, and crisp variegated patterns, forming dense, mounding clumps that fill the front of a shaded border more completely than almost any flowering plant could manage. Hostas range dramatically in size, from miniature varieties barely 6 inches across to giant cultivars that can spread 5 feet or more, which means there's a hosta suited to nearly any scale of border, from a narrow shaded path edge to a wide woodland bed. In summer, hostas send up tall, wiry flower stalks topped with bell-shaped blooms in white or pale lavender that hummingbirds visit regularly, and some fragrant varieties perfume the evening air. Still, most gardeners grow hostas purely for the leaves, and the range of texture available is enormous, from smooth and glossy to deeply quilted and puckered, from narrow and pointed to broad and heart-shaped. Pairing 2 or 3 different leaf textures together in the same shaded corner creates a surprisingly rich, layered look without needing a single flower. Hostas tolerate heavy shade better than nearly any other border perennial, and they're one of the few plants that will actually grow well near black walnut trees, a notoriously difficult environment where the tree's roots release a chemical toxic to many other plants. They're hardy across an unusually wide range, USDA zones 3 through 9, which covers nearly every gardener watching this video. Rich, moist, well-draining soil produces the largest, most vigorous leaves, and a layer of mulch helps retain the moisture hostas crave through hot summer stretches. The one challenge with hostas is slugs and snails, which can shred the leaves if left unchecked, so keep an eye out in damp spring weather and treat early if you spot chew marks. Deer also find hostas irresistible, so in areas with heavy deer pressure, consider fencing or repellents. Dividing established clumps every 3 to 4 years, ideally in early spring or fall, keeps them healthy and provides an easy, free way to extend a shaded border, since each division establishes quickly in its new spot. Planted in repeated drifts along a shaded walkway, hostas alone can carry an entire section of border from spring through frost. Plant 2. Coral bells. Moving to a plant that earns its spot in the border almost entirely through foliage rather than flowers, coral bells, botanically known as heuchera. The leaves come in an enormous range of colors: chartreuse, lime, deep plum, copper, silver, and richly veined combinations, which means there's a variety to match nearly any color scheme you're working with, whether you want something that pops against dark mulch or blends softly into a cottage-style planting. In late spring and early summer, coral bells send up thin, wiry flower stalks topped with tiny bell-shaped blooms that hummingbirds are drawn to from across the yard. But the real appeal is the foliage mound sitting quietly at the front of the bed 12 months out of the year in mild climates. In many regions, coral bells stay evergreen or semi-evergreen through winter, which means they're one of the few border plants that still offer color when everything around them has died back. Coral bells thrive in full sun to partial shade and actually prefer a bit of afternoon shade in hotter regions, since intense sun can scorch the more delicate leaf colors, particularly the lighter chartreuse and silver varieties. They do best in rich, moist, well-draining soil and struggle in heavy clay that stays wet, since soggy roots are the most common cause of coral bells failing to establish. They're hardy from zones 4 through 9. One quirk to watch for with coral bells is crown heaving, where repeated freeze-thaw cycles in winter can push the plant's crown up out of the soil, exposing the roots. A light layer of LCH in late fall helps prevent this, and if you do see a plant heaved up in early spring, simply press it back down and firm the soil around it. Every 3 to 4 years, dig up and divide the clumps, both to keep the plant vigorous, since older coral bells can develop a woody, bare center, and to multiply your stock for free, since each division can be replanted elsewhere along the border. Coral bells pair beautifully with flowering neighbors because the foliage acts almost like a living backdrop, making nearby blooms look more vivid by contrast. If you're finding this list useful so far, drop a thumbs up. It genuinely helps this channel reach more people who are trying to build a better garden. Plant 3. Sedum. Next is one of the toughest plants you can put in a border, and one of the most useful because it blooms in late summer and fall, exactly when most spring and early summer perennials have already finished their show. Stonecrop, more commonly sold under its old name, sedum, though botanists have since reclassified many varieties under Hylolephium. Whichever name you find on the plant tag, the plant itself is unmistakable. The thick, succulent leaves come in shades of blue-green, silver, burgundy, and near black depending on the variety, so it contributes color and texture even before the flat-topped flower clusters open. Those clusters, usually in shades of pink, rose, or deep red, are a magnet for bees and butterflies stocking up on nectar before winter, often drawing more pollinator activity than almost anything else blooming in the border at that time of year. Taller upright varieties work well in the middle of a border, reaching 2 to 3 feet, while lower, spreading types stay under a foot and suit the front edge or a rock garden setting. Sedum thrives in full sun and dry to average, well-draining soil, which makes it one of the best choices for a hot, exposed border or a spot where watering is inconsistent, such as a bed along a south-facing wall or driveway. It's hardy from zones 3 through 9 and genuinely thrives on a bit of neglect, since rich soil and frequent watering tend to make taller sedum varieties flop open in the middle, splitting apart under their own weight once the flowers get heavy. If flopping is a concern in your garden, a light pinching back of the stems in late spring, sometimes called the Chelsea chop, encourages a bushier, more compact habit that holds up better once in bloom. Leaving the dried flower head standing through winter adds structural interest to an otherwise bare border, catching frost and snow beautifully, and provides seed for birds during the colder months, so resist the urge to cut it back until early spring. Sedum also divides easily, and stem cuttings root readily in soil, making it one of the cheapest plants on this list to multiply across a long border. Plant 4. Creeping phlox. For sheer springtime impact, almost nothing in the perennial world competes with creeping phlox. For about 2 to 3 weeks each spring, the entire plant disappears under a dense carpet of small flowers in pink, purple, blue, or white, completely hiding the fine, needle-like foliage underneath. It's the kind of display that stops neighbors walking by, and because the plant spreads to form a continuous mat, a single well-established planting can cover several feet of border edge with color. Once the bloom show ends, that same foliage forms a low, evergreen mat that holds its shape through the rest of the year, which makes creeping phlox just as useful for erosion control on slopes and for suppressing weeds along path edges as it is for spring color. It spreads steadily, but isn't aggressive, rooting along its stems to knit itself into a solid, dense front of border planting within 2 or 3 seasons, filling gaps between stepping stones or draping attractively over the edge of a raised bed. Creeping phlox prefers full sun for the heaviest bloom, tolerates light shade, though flowering will be noticeably lighter, and needs well-draining soil, since soggy conditions in winter are its main weakness and can lead to crown rot. It's hardy from zones 3 through 9 and draws in hummingbirds, bees, and early-season butterflies right when they need the nectar most, since creeping phlox is often one of the earliest significant nectar sources blooming in a spring garden. After the main bloom fades, a light shearing back by about a third helps keep the mat tidy and can occasionally coax a smaller second flush later in the season. Creeping phlox rarely needs dividing, but if a section of the mat starts to die out in the center after several years, digging up and replanting healthy outer sections is an easy fix. Because the plant stays so low, under 6 inches in most varieties, it's one of the few perennials on this list that genuinely works right at the very front edge of a border, even along the lip of a walkway. Plant 5, Black-Eyed Susan. Few perennials deliver as much color for as lit. Effort as Black-Eyed Susan, botanically Rudbeckia. The classic golden yellow petals surrounding a dark chocolate brown center are instantly recognizable, and modern cultivars have been bred for a tidier, more compact habit that suits a border far better than the rangy wildflower version you might see growing along a highway. Black-Eyed Susan blooms from midsummer straight through the first frost, which makes it one of the longest flowering perennials on this list, and a reliable way to keep color in the border after early bloomers like creeping phlox have finished for the year. A mature clump can produce dozens of blooms at once, and because the flowers hold up well when cut, Black-Eyed Susan doubles as a reliable source for indoor arrangements right off the border. It tolerates heat, drought, and poor soil far better than most flowering perennials, and it's largely ignored by deer and rabbits, which makes it a dependable choice in areas where browsing pressure limits what else will survive. Full sun brings out the heaviest flowering, though it tolerates a few hours of afternoon shade in hotter regions without much loss of bloom. It's hardy from zones 3 through 9, and leaving the seed head standing into winter feeds finches and other songbirds, so a fall cutback isn't strictly necessary and actually adds a bit of winter wildlife value to the garden. Dividing the clumps every 3 to 4 years keeps the planting vigorous and prevents the center of older clumps from dying out, a common issue once Black-Eyed Susan has been in the same spot for many seasons. It's also worth watching for powdery mildew in humid climates late in the season, since crowded plantings with poor air circulation are more prone to it. Spacing plants properly at installation and dividing on schedule usually keeps this in check without needing any spray. Plant 6, Woodland Sage. Woodland sage, botanically Salvia nemorosa, brings something most of the other plants on this list can't: strong vertical lines. Dense basal foliage stays low and tidy, while tall spikes of violet-blue flowers rise sharply above it in late spring and early summer, giving the border visual height without needing a shrub or tall perennial at the back. That vertical shape is genuinely valuable in border design, since a bed made up entirely of mounding plants can start to look flat and one-note without something breaking the line upward. Deadheading the spent flower spikes right after the first bloom, cutting them back to just above the basal foliage, triggers a reliable second, and sometimes third, flush of color that carries the plant well into autumn, making it one of the most consistent season-long performers you can plant. Hummingbirds treat it as a regular feeding stop, and native bees are drawn to it in large numbers, often more than almost any other plant in a mixed border. Woodland sage does best in full sun and average, well-draining soil, and like most salvias, handles dry spells with ease once it's established, making it a strong pick for gardeners who don't want to water on a strict schedule. It's hardy from zones 4 through 8, and while it tolerates a wide range of soils, it does not do well in constantly wet or waterlogged conditions, which can rot the roots over winter. Planting it in repeated clusters along the middle of a border creates a rhythmic wave of blue that reads beautifully from a distance, especially when paired against the warmer yellows of Black-Eyed Susan or yarrow, a contrast that photographs particularly well and is a favorite combination among border designers. Every few years, clumps can be lifted and divided in early spring, which helps prevent the center from thinning out and gives you extra plants to extend the planting further along the border. Plant 7. Yarrow. Yarrow, botanically Achillea, is the plant experienced gardeners tend to recommend quietly, almost as an insider tip, because it delivers a huge amount of impact for very little maintenance. The finely divided, almost fern-like foliage gives the border a soft, lacy texture even when nothing is in bloom, and above it, flat-topped flower clusters open in shades of yellow, red, pink, salmon, and white from early through late summer, often continuing in flushes for months rather than blooming just once. Yarrow tolerates drought, poor soil, heat, and both deer and rabbit browsing, which makes it one of the most forgiving plants you can place along a border that doesn't get much attention, such as a strip along a driveway or a bed at the far edge of the yard. Taller varieties, reaching up to 3 feet, work well toward the middle of the bed, while newer dwarf cultivars, some under a foot tall, are compact enough for the front edge, giving you flexibility to use yarrow in more than one layer of the same border. It's hardy from zones 3 through 9 and prefers full sun, since too much shade leads to weak, floppy stems that need staking. It makes an excellent cut and dried flower, holding both its shape and color for months after the stems are harvested, which is part of why it's remained a cottage garden staple for so long. Because yarrow spreads gradually by rhizomes, an established clump can be divided every 2 to 3 years to fill in additional stretches of the border at no extra cost, though in very rich soil it can spread more assertively than expected, so it's worth keeping an eye on its edges in the first couple of seasons. Plant 8. Catmint. Closing out the list is a plant that belongs at the front of almost every sunny border in the country, catmint. The gray-green, minty-scented foliage forms soft, billowing mounds, and from late spring all the way through the first frost, it's covered in spikes of small purple, blue, or white flowers, giving it one of the longest bloom windows of any plant on this list. Catmint is remarkably forgiving. It shrugs off poor soil, handles drought once it's established, and deer and rabbits leave it alone almost entirely, which makes it one of the lowest maintenance plants you can put along a bed you don't want to fuss over. Bees and butterflies treat it like a buffet, and if the blooms start to look tired partway through summer, a hard shear back to about half its height will trigger a fresh flush of flowers within a couple of weeks, essentially resetting the plant for a second round of bloom. Catmint grows well in USDA hardiness zones 4 through 9, prefers full sun, and tolerates a wide range of soil types as long as drainage is decent, making it one of the most adaptable plants on this entire list. Newer compact varieties, bred specifically to avoid the floppy, sprawling habit of older catmints, stay tidy and upright without staking, which makes them especially useful for a clean, structured border edge where a neater look is the goal. Because the foliage holds its shape and color even between bloom flushes, catmint gives your border a steady backbone of texture from spring through fall, not just a brief burst of color. It also makes an excellent low-hedge substitute when planted in a repeated row, softening the edge of a path or driveway without the maintenance a clipped shrub would demand. Division every 3 to 4 years keeps older plants from getting woody in the center, and the divisions transplant easily, making catmint one of the easiest plants on this list to spread throughout the rest of your garden for free. Getting real results from a perennial border comes down to a few habits more than plant selection alone. Prepare the soil before you plant, mulch each spring, deadhead where it extends bloom, and divide crowded clumps every few years. These 8 plants cover shade and sun, spring and fall, height and ground cover, so there's a place to start no matter what your border looks like right now. If this helped you plan your own border, give the video a thumbs up, subscribe for what's coming next, and tell us in the comments which of these 8 you're planting first.